Okay, so it's 8.
Yes.
All right, we are live.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Paint Jam. We've got Mr. Leo Gonzales here tonight to lead this. And Leo is not only a really solid tattooer from the Albuquerque, New Mexico area, but he also is a very accomplished fantasy painter. His stuff is really, very dialed in, very highly developed, and he especially likes to paint fantasy creatures. He's done a lot of dragons, and right now he's working on this Manticore. Leo, why don't you go ahead and show us your Manticore and tell us a little bit about what this mythical creature is and, what it's a combination of and all that stuff. I'd love to hear a little bit about it.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me, and glad to be here. So yeah, the Manticore, it's basically, initially I thought it was Greek mythology is what it stemmed from, but did a little bit of research once I had the idea that I wanted to do a Manticore and realized that it's actually Persian mythology. It's generally a lion's body with either a scorpion tail, or sometimes they have just like a spiked club tail, and a monstrous human-like face. And most of the time you see them, they're depicted with wings. But again, that was one of the cool things that I discovered when I did some research, is that the original Persian legend, they were wingless. And so I decided, after messing around for a while, I thought that compositionally it was going to look better without wings. So I went with the original legend kind of version. And then I also decided, instead of like a strictly human head, I wanted to give it kind of like an ape face, which, is kind of Homo sapien, but not quite. So
definitely a lot more ferocious looking.
Yeah, I thought it would be more ferocious looking. One of the cool features about Manticores that I've always been kind of obsessed with is that they have triple rows of teeth. And so it's kind of hard to see, but I gave my guy three jaws within his mouth. Yeah, I can actually bring up a closer screen share of it. Hold on one sec.
So yeah, while you're getting that set up, I wanted to welcome everyone else who's tuned in tonight to Art Jam with us. And once we get settled in, we're going to share out the Zoom link. But yeah, okay, some reference here. So we got the...
So this is where the painting is right now. And, let me see if I can zoom in. Are you guys seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I'm not getting a zoom on this. There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
There you can see kind of the...
All right, did you want to see this up close? Yeah.
The triple rows of teeth there on the upper jaw, which I thought was a cool little feature about the mythology of them. I thought it was funny too that the research that I did, it talked about how they give like a cooing, mewling kind of sound where you'd think it would be like this roar, right? And I thought that was extra creepy.
Right. Oh yeah, because it's not just this cliche monster. Rah!
Yeah. For sure.
Nice.
So
how many hours so far?
Oh, you know what? I try not to keep track of that.
Yeah. Nothing to gain from doing that.
Yeah.
So, as you may know, my family and I have been doing this Strata Easel Challenge.
Yeah, cool, man.
And the idea is that you're painting something from life. Whether it be a landscape or still life or whatever. And I've just been painting objects. And I wanted to find a nice object that was something in the fantasy creature vocabulary. So flip this around. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, this was a gift from a client many years ago, and it sat outside. It was supposed to be an indoor-outdoor sort of thing. This griffin thing, and it got kind of rotted and corroded, which sort of improved it in a way. Sure. So, yeah, I'm going to be doing this 1-to-2 aspect ratio here, kind of a fun crop. And I'm just going to crop part of the face and one of the hands, some of the eggs that it's sitting on, and with these still lifes, I've been sort of doing the opposite of what you did with your Manticore, with more or less zero preparation. Sure. Just start stabbing away with the brush and trying to get the approximate proportions blocked in, and then develop it from there, which is kind of fun. It's also the opposite of the tattoo process.
I've been wanting to do that as more plein air painting, or just trying to paint something start to finish without without all the hubbub of preparing, like how I normally approach something.
Right. Yeah. Basically, a la prima.
Yeah.
Just sit down and paint and finish. Yeah. It's fun. It's a completely different way of painting. There's a little bit more pressure because, sure. For example, let's say you want to get a particular lighting effect. You want to have elements that get lower contrast as they get farther back, as you have with your painting. You have to nail all your values right there in that first pass. You can't just add glazes until it's perfect.
Yeah.
So you have to really have a much clearer idea of your vision and be able to get it knocked out in way fewer brush strokes than you would if you were afforded the liberty of letting it dry and keep layering it.
But that lends a great energy to it too,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why I love it. I think it's worth, pursuing as a painter, even though the results are definitely way less controlled. But, I think that's one of the issues that I have being a tattooer. I mean, I love tattooing, but the level of control that's required is, well, it's well known. It's definitely, you don't want to sit down with an artist that doesn't have a high level of control, right? Sure. And finding the right way to let go and loosen up in a tattoo, you almost have to design a tattoo around it. Like, okay, this background stuff here, I'll let myself get a little loose with that. Or, with this texture, I'll let that stuff get a little loose. But then you have to make sure that there's enough important features, enough edges that are nice and firm and crisp and nicely developed in order to keep it looking intentional. That's one of the things with looseness in a painting. You kind of expect it, in a tattoo, it just looks sloppy or unfinished.
Some of my favorite fantasy artists and some of my favorite works by them turns out was stuff that they did in a single night, which, absolutely blows my mind. I found out one of my favorite Frank Frazetta paintings. It's the Destroyer. It's got Conan fighting this big group of warriors, right? And he's coming up above.
Oh yeah. That piece is legendary. I know exactly the piece. That's one that
his wife told him the night before, hey, that you realize that that's due tomorrow, and he hadn't even started it. Went out to the yard and cut down a piece of board, put on the coffee, kissed the kids goodnight. And when they woke up that morning, he was dragging himself off to bed and the painting was there on the easel finished. It's insane.
Yeah, that's wow. Well, you know, you not only need to have a really good idea of your picture, but you also have a real mastery of the paint to be able to, you know, do it without going over it multiple times, which, you know, my best paintings obviously have lots of layers on them. Just, I mean, same with you, you know, it's a way that we're comfortable with. And I do that as a tattoo artist also.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'll begin working and every painting, I feel like it gets away from me. I pull it back in, it gets away from me again. And it's this constant pushing, trying to dial it in till you reach that destination.
I've lost my paintbrush that I was going to start this piece with. I had a complicated 15 minutes leading up to this. Okay, well, I'll just have to pick a different one.
I was in a bit of a scramble myself.
Yeah, I've been working with this fairly large brush, like a 1/2-inch filbert, because it prevents me from getting lost in the rabbit hole of development.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, since each of these is really supposed to be finished pretty quickly, I'm trying not to go there. So,
sure.
You know, the big brush just prevents that. And I also just like again, that looseness. Now I imagine with you know, that Frazetta piece that you're talking about, the Destroyer, you know, in order to be able to knock it out that fast, you know, a lot of it is really loose, but and you know, I imagine he probably did a lot of it with mostly bigger brushes. Just went in there with a smaller brush just where necessary. But I mean, that's why I don't know if it's possible for us to pull that piece up right now. No, you know what? This kind of thing, you start talking about pieces that you know about. You know, it's impossible to know ahead of time what pieces to pull off the internet and have ready. I don't think Gabe is with us tonight, and Sandy is painting.
I'm here. I haven't started painting yet. So if you want me to pull up anything right now, I can totally help with that.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah. What was the painting?
Okay. It is a Frank Frazetta piece called The Destroyer. Let's see. Figure out the right setup here where, okay.
And I also set up a photo album so I could, if people are interested, show kind of my thought process on this Manticore piece and kind of the steps I took.
Oh, nice. So you've been documenting.
Yeah. And I don't usually do that, but I did that with this one to a degree.
So what are the steps that you have planned for tonight's session?
I'm gonna work on the tail and the scorpion part of it, basically.
Okay. And this is the kind of painting where you're going to be focusing on a small area for most of any given session.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, while I'm doing backgrounds and stuff, I can kind of, you know, go all over the place. But once I start getting into specific, once I'm past the background, it kind of.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Crazy. So that's one night's work.
Yeah. It's incredible.
So do you think he had a sketch at least beforehand, or?
You know, maybe he did do sketches and prelims. You know what, too, this, he painted it, sent it off, and then when he got the painting back, he wasn't happy with the Conan figure. So he actually went in and repainted Conan. So there's two versions. He did that a lot, where he would paint one version, send it off to the publisher, get the painting back and decide, nah. and read swatches of it. There's actually a couple paintings that I love of his that it turns out they no longer exist because he got them back, decided he didn't like the painting, and painted another painting completely over it, and that painting was totally lost. And it was like incredible, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a level of commitment to like not liking a piece. Wow, you know. You figure you could just put it away. I'm not going to hang this one up.
Yeah.
This isn't even worth the panel that it's on.
That's pretty wild.
So we've got a couple people in the comments here. We've got Connor Foley is in there. We've got Ginger and Tavon.
Right
and
on.
Tavon says that the Manticore is making him think of that cartoon, The Last Unicorn.
Oh, with the Red Bull?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an old favorite.
Yeah, definitely. That's classic. Good one.
So Leo, you want to share out the Zoom link now? Are we there?
Sure. Yeah. How do I do this?
Sandy will do that part.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally cool.
Yeah, and you know, this is kind of like those tattoos of sculptures that you see. You know, I'm doing a piece of art about a piece of art.
Sure.
In a way.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, I like the shape of it and the way the light plays off of it. I'm doing a creative crop, and plus I'm just painting. I'm practicing my painting skills. That's what this whole Strata Easel Challenge thing is. And
so you said the whole family's doing it.
Yeah, we've all been doing it. And yeah, Kaya has done a lot of still lifes. She's done like 3 paintings a day since we got started on this.
Wow.
It's pretty awesome.
And you said it's 30, is it 31 days?
31 days, yeah, the 31-day challenge. And yeah, it's definitely a push. It's more of a push than I had realized. It's not getting any breaks. And, you know, you got stuff going on, right? You got a tattoo here or there or whatever. You're tired because you've been working on home improvement projects all day. And it's like, yeah, I guess we're going to paint anyway. But I'm not complaining. It's kind of like after the encyclopedia Kickstarter, I ended up, you know, committed to doing 74 paintings, and and it was fun, you know.
You had more control over it because you had to be.
I didn't have to, you know, I could take days off. You know what I mean? It was a different situation. I could still fit it around my life. Where with this, you have to fit your life around it. You know, it's kind of a boot camp sort of thing. But that's, you know, that's why we do things like this, right?
So, you know, before I get painting here, I'm going to screen share real quick. Again, like I said, with some of the process that went into this.
Yeah, let's check it out.
So, you know, like I said, I started with research, and I like doing the research because it can open up avenues that you didn't, you know, think about before, such as, you know, finding out that this was a Persian legend, not Greek, and finding out that they originally didn't have wings, and this would have been an entirely different painting, right? Here's some of the reference that I compiled. I knew I wanted to do some cool landscape elements, so I got various even photographs that I took out and about just to you know, nothing that I took directly from, but just stuff to like inform my decisions while drawing and the elements that I wanted to kind of incorporate.
Right, just so that, for example, the shelf fungi, you know, you had some real shelf fungi that you were at least, you know, learning from as you were drawing them, so that
Yeah.
they didn't turn out cartoony or whatever. Yeah, and that's something I learned the hard way, over and over again, really. That
Yeah. I know what it looks like, but I really don't, you know.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's always good to pull from stuff like that. You know, seeing musculature and the anatomy of the animals. I've always felt, while doing fantasy art, that it's most successful if you can make something that doesn't exist be believable and seem to exist, right? So what's great about creatures like this, I can pull reference from actual living animals that we're familiar with, and you know, I still manipulate the anatomy somewhat, you know, to suit my purpose, but I feel like that's the strong base to start from. Here's a gorilla head that I really like that I kind of used to construct my own. I had never painted waterfalls, so that was probably the biggest challenge for me in this, and I didn't do it quite like the photograph, but you know, it's a jumping off point.
Right. Yeah, it shows how it separates, and you know, that kind of way that those separate streams branch off and that kind of thing.
Sure. And then from there, that's the original, just the doodle, right? Kind of a little thumbnail.
Yeah.
From there, I kept refining that till I got to my actual drawing for it. This is actually just a digital drawing that I did on the iPad. And then this was a color study. And not every painting I go to these panes. This one I was just trying new things, and I thought, okay, I want to try to cover my bases before I even get started. And it seems like a lot of unnecessary steps, but I feel that ultimately it helps me to eliminate a lot of guesswork when I get into the actual painting. You know, I've established so much that I can just paint and have fun at that point, you know.
You think that it saves you time at all, or just makes it so that it's less of a struggle?
I think that it may save some time in the long run. It may add on some time in certain instances, but I think that ultimately, like you said, less of a struggle, and you work so much out. This stage for me is always crucial personally. This is the acrylic underpainting, and this is where I really can dial it in, establish my values, just get all the necessary information on there, and then I can begin oil painting, and it becomes a little less of a struggle because I've worked so much out.
Okay, and so for the people that would ask, why not just continue with acrylic?
What time is it, Dad?
What would be the reason for that?
I don't know how to paint with acrylic very well. I mean,
Okay.
this is different. I really work with the acrylic at this stage almost like watercolor. It's watered down so much. When I'm first laying it down, my tones are like these very, very light tones in the background here, and I gradually build it up to my darks. And so it really allows me to really work out, you know, where those deep shadows are going to be, how they're going to sit, and but I don't know. I have a hard time blending with acrylics. I've just always worked in oil, so I feel like this is I can be looser at this stage, a little more crude, because it's going to get dialed in later on, you know.
So your answer really is for the purpose of blending. That's why oil.
Yeah. I like just having that working time. One thing that I recently discovered, I usually use Liquin fine detail, and I know that you've talked about how that can sometimes be problematic because it gets real sticky. It can start gumming up after a while, and I always feel like I'm racing that working time before I know that the paint's going to start seizing up. Well, I've been taking these online. Actually, I want to share some online resources with everybody too. There's this artist from Australia, Patrick Jones, and on his website he has numerous fantasy and anatomy virtual books, but he also has movies that and he does like basically classes that you can just pay for, you know, whatever he might be like doing anatomy. He's gonna be working the hands, and it's a class on just hand anatomy, and they're really reasonably priced, and it's an amazing amount of information that it's like going to art school online at your leisure, you know. But anyhow, he was talking about how he uses linseed oil mixed in with Liquin and uses like an 80% linseed oil to 20% Liquin ratio to keep that Liquin from drying and letting him work it all day, but it'll dry by the next day, no problem. And I started doing that, and wow, what a difference.
Okay. And how long have you been using that mix?
I think for 2 painting sessions now. So
okay.
Real hasn't been long at all.
But so far so good.
Yeah. So I think I emailed Sandy the list of these books and websites that if people want to look into. There's books on fantasy art techniques. One book is Fantasy Workshop by Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell. I learned a whole lot from that. And then Patrick Jones, like I said, he has a sci-fi and fantasy art techniques book.
Leo?
Yes.
Leo, just letting you know, yeah, those are underneath the videos. So everybody that's, if you're looking for that, that should be on the Reinventing the Tattoo page under the video, or as well as on the app under the video.
Awesome, thanks, Andy.
No worries.
And then there's a couple websites too with downloadable books and art lesson movies that are just phenomenal. I've personally learned so much from watching these and studying that.
Right on. Well, thank you for the list.
Yeah.
John Pricer is wondering, Leo, how typically how many hours do you spend on your underpaintings?
You know, they go fairly quick. This one took a little longer because it's a little bit bigger of a painting than I'm used to. So this one probably took me 4 days of painting. But typically I can usually get an underpainting done in about 2 days.
I can step away for a few minutes. Yeah.
2 days of maybe like 4 to 5 hours a session.
Leo, I'm going to need to step away for a couple minutes here, okay?
Okay, no worries.
Looks amazing.
Thanks. Those are my favorite heads so far.
Yeah, that's tremendous.
So yeah, they can go like they can go as quickly as like 8 to 10 hours to get an underpainting done. That's quick for me anyway.
It looks great. Oh my God, look how good those faces are. Wow, oh, that's great. But go watch it. Oh, this is incredible. That's incredible. Go watch it again on her fingers because it's still pink. You don't want to do it.
Okay.
You get yourself a little.
Oh my God, look at me, Mom.
What's she doing?
Look at her on the couch.
What's she doing? That's very kind of. Aww.
I hope she didn't pee on my smock.
I hope not too. Go get your hands real clean, okay? She's basically hanging out with us. What do you do?
You know, I was trying to get my light out of the way so that I didn't have so much of a glare, but I'm not getting enough light on my painting, so I'll remedy that.
Nice, that looks great. And Melissa Sink just joined us as well. Hi, Melissa. The Zoom link's out there if anybody wants to join us and show off their paintings as well.
Yeah, feel free to jump on. Still trying to mess with my video. Sorry, guys. You working on something, Sandy?
I don't know if you can see too well on there.
Cool.
It's got a bunch of little mushrooms, and then this is going to be this this like kind of surreal woman's face with a bunch of eyeballs.
Nice.
Yeah, I started it at one point during one of our other paint jams, and I hadn't gotten a chance to sit down and do anything to it, so I'm excited. And it fits the fantasy creature kind of thing, so.
Yeah.
Could have easily started something else, I'm sure.
Almost like a green woman instead of the green man.
What was that?
So it almost has like a green man feel, but the green woman.
Yeah, totally. I like that. Man. using some new brushes. So I'm sure it's going to be a little bit of getting used to some different shapes.
Mm.
Do you have like a favorite shape that you usually go towards?
You know, I like predominantly use rounds.
Yeah.
Rounds and spotters, but I do like filberts and then flats for, you know, doing blocking in of large shapes and what have you.
Yeah.
And I use filberts predominantly to blend with.
Okay. Do you like them dry? I think Guy was talking about like having dry ones to
I do
blend
like
with.
the brush. I can even sometimes do like a spotting, dabbing with the filbert on the edges of things to kind of blend and fuzz out edges.
Yeah. That is the nice thing about oils, is all that pretty blending that you get to do.
Or sure. I don't understand how some people get such beautiful, smooth gradations with acrylic. Seeing how fast it goes, you know. But they do.
They do, somehow. Yeah, I don't understand a lot of the stuff yet, but it's lots of fun.
I guess maybe just painted in really, really thin layers and gradually built up. Are you doing acrylic or oil?
Oils, yeah, yeah. I used to do acrylic. I mean, I used to just not really paint very much, but then I would try acrylic. I was scared of using oils, and then as soon as I tried oils, I was just like, oh my gosh, what was I waiting for?
Yeah. So many people are intimidated by the fact that they take so long to dry, but man, there's so much that can be done with them because of that drying time.
Yeah, it's like it was an intimidating part at first, but then once you actually play with it, you're like, oh, why would I want anything but that?
Can't learn to swim till you jump in the deep end. Wanting to do more watercolor stuff too.
Yeah, that's another cool one. Actually, that one I probably did more than acrylics before. Yeah.
It's funny too because my approach with watercolors is totally different. Completely everything about it's different. You know, than when I work with oils. When I'm working with oils, I'm still thinking like fine art, right? Not to say that watercolors aren't, and I've seen people do incredible things with it that it doesn't even look like watercolor. But I find that when I use watercolor, I end up going back to my tattoo techniques, and my watercolor stuff is definitely, you know, tattoo influence.
Yeah.
Or you know, just that.
Yeah, that makes
I would
sense.
normally tattoo is finds its way into my watercolor stuff, which doesn't really so much with my oil paintings.
Yeah, it's got definitely its own little challenges that, just you want to have white in it, you have to think about that like well ahead of time.
They're very unforgiving, like
Yeah,
go in and paint over it.
no,
You gotta nail it.
Yeah, and I don't often think very far ahead with art, so I find that tough. But somehow it was like my favorite way to do it for a while. It's funny. So is there anybody in the chat that's joining us painting, but maybe not feeling the Zoom call? And if so, what you painting tonight? Melissa's sink is getting set up. She's got a blank canvas tonight.
Oh, something brand new.
Nice.
You know, I was talking earlier about the online resources for you know, learning and what have you, and I just think that this is such a cool thing that you guys do. You know, not just the paint jams, but all that guys put together with the learning resources and stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I am so happy that it's available, that we get to make it available for people, and so much of it for free.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to be able to like connect and do art together when that's not really possible in all ways right now. Pretty grateful. So we just had Connor Foley is just connecting to audio, joining us on here.
Going with my painting, it's like jungle sounds back there. I don't know if you guys can hear on your end, but my wife's like on the other side of the house in another room, practicing her hurdy-gurdy.
Oh, cool.
So it's like I got this cool medieval vibe going on in the background.
Oh, that's cool. And then my partner's next to me playing the guitar.
Yeah.
And then we've got little Kaya monkey going on in the back. The hurdy-gurdy, that's one of those, it's like kind of like an, oh, I don't even know how to explain what I'm imagining, but I think it's a hurdy-gurdy.
Like a medieval instrument, you've got like a crank on it.
Yeah.
Wooden instrument that has a crank that kind of, and then almost like a guitar neck with piano keys. That it's a pretty intense instrument. the all the and all that's going on. Ooh, we got an alien going.
Yeah, that's mine. Sorry, messing with my webcam. I don't really have a super stable base for it, but
Super cool.
thanks, man.
Oh, Bruno's just come on as well. Hi, Bruno. And Tavon's going to try and jump on to the Zoom too. So Connor, what are you using today? Are you using oils or acrylics?
I'm using acrylics. I kind of wish I would have went with oils now that I'm this far in this project, but kind of is what it is. I'm using like a big old piece of wood I found in the garage and was like, oh, I could paint on this. And so,
Nice.
yeah, watering down the acrylics can kind of make it a little goofy, but I'm working with it.
That's cool. Yeah, I did the first, I don't know if you were at the virtual tattoo gatherings, but this summer, but for the first several paint jams, I was using acrylics, and
Yeah.
we were teaching with oils. And so I was like, man, it sounds so nice. Like they're just petting stuff on there. Oh, should try
Right.
this out.
I did that with Bob Ross back in the day and was completely confused why none of the blending or anything worked anything like his. And then
Yeah,
realized
exactly.
that.
Why is this?
So since I was a kid, I've always played nerd games like D&D and Warhammer, things like that. And
Right.
I painted little miniature figurines. I still do it. I actually used to compete professionally doing that for
Nice.
But the first time I ever painted a miniature, I could not for the life of me figure out why this one miniature, the red on it, would not dry. And it
What?
staying sticky, and I tried to get the paint off, and I repainted it and left it for a few days and went back and it was still sticky. And I'm like, what is going on? Realized it was oil paint. At that point, I was so young and I didn't even know what oil paint was. I'm like, what is going on here?
Why? Yeah, if you didn't know what's going on, that'd be super frustrating.
I painted the thing like 4 times.
Oh. Yeah, those must be really like what you use, like little tiny hair like paintbrushes? Because I've seen those and they're very small.
Yeah, I mean, use like zeros on down to 10-0.
Nice. Wow. Arturo is in the chat room and he's wondering what type of machine do you use for lining, and do you have any tips for pulling off clean lines? So I guess he's talking about tattoos.
Is he talking to anybody in particular?
What was that?
Is he talking to anybody in particular, or is he just a general question?
Oh, he's talking to you, Leo.
I tend to use, I've been really into black cloth cartridges lately, being that I haven't used coil machines in quite a while. And there's a part of me that misses it, but just ergonomically, coil machines just kill my hands at this point, you know. So I'm using rotaries, and lately I've been using Black Claw's tight nines and straight nines for lining for the most part. I'll use a 5 bug pin as well for real tight stuff.
Nice. And Tavon's joined us on the Zoom as well.
Oh, what's up, man?
He may or may not have sound. I know that sometimes it's been on and off lately, but can we hear you, Tavon?
Am I there? Can you guys hear me now?
We
Yes,
can
sir.
hear you.
Hey,
Howdy.
how's it going?
Good, how are you, bro?
I'm doing good. Doing good. I'm still just kind of mapping out what I did pull together at the last minute.
Oh, killer. Nice. How big is that?
Yeah. Oh, it's
on your,
it's
on-
digital and it's
Oh, cool.
yeah.
When you do those digital pieces, do you typically have a certain size that you normally work in, or do you just do screen size?
It depends on what I'm doing, really.
Yeah.
I've been trying, like, if I'm just doing something that's just going to be more of like a, you know, I know it's going to be a quick sketch and that I'm not going to put a whole lot of time into, I'll probably try and do it smaller. But if I want to put a lot of time into it and make it something that I can maybe print later on or whatever, I'll try and think about that and make it a larger size.
Okay. Yeah, that stuff's all brand new to me.
Yeah, I'm still figuring it out. I mean, I've been doing digital for maybe 5 or 6 years now, I think. Maybe more than that, even maybe about 7 or 8. But it's still a learning process.
I've been kicking myself like, man, why did I have such a hang up about that for so long? Because it's such a useful tool, man.
Yeah, a lot of people are weary about it. It's interesting. Well, maybe not so much anymore, but
All right, I'm back.
Right.
Oh, that's cool. So whose screen are we seeing here?
Hey.
So who's the Hydra? Is that Jason?
I think we've got, that's Tavon.
Oh, Tavon. Hey, right on.
Oh, hey. How's it going?
It's going good. How's your web connection tonight? Has your sound been okay?
Nice.
Sounds like you're cutting out a little
It's
bit.
a little spotty.
Yeah. Well, at least we're able to see what you're
Yeah.
doing. It looks really cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Kaya was doing a Hydra too. She had to go to bed. Yeah, let me grab it. So pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, check this thing out.
Oh, nice.
And that
Oh, nice.
this head in particular, I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, she was already overtired when she started it. But yeah, she's doing this easel challenge with us and trying to do 31 paintings. And so far she's done like 3 paintings a day.
Damn.
Yeah, which has been cool. It's like she's gotten so familiar with the digital stuff. I mean, with analog stuff, that it's like she's able to bust things out as easily as if she were using Procreate.
Awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, for a long time, I've been working out of, because you know I've been painting quite a bit, but I haven't done any like serious soul searching in terms of my palette recently, and I'm sure I'll get there eventually. But I've been working out of the same bag of oil paints. It's like this old freezer bag with sort of some odd colors, but it's, you know, I've kind of got a triad going there. You know, I've got a rose color, I've got ochre, and I've got this sort of off blue. And then I've got, you know, a little bit of, you know, some yellows and things like that. But I've been working out of the same bag forever. And then with this particular painting, it's even more monochrome than that. So a lot of these paintings I've been doing this month have been just Payne's gray, other gray that's sort of this light opaque gray called gray of gray. And then ochre. I've done a lot of paintings with just those 3 and a little bit of white.
Wild how many things you can get done with just that.
Yeah, well, the ochre and the Paynes give you a warm and a cool, and the gray of gray gives you a nice sort of like neutral foundation that you can work around everything.
Yeah, and then just using different, like more of the ochre on a certain thing and then more of the gray on a certain thing, then it's like you barely even noticed that there was all just the same colors.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how, and like, if your palette is limited enough, I think the viewer just after a certain point suspends their disbelief and just starts seeing the whole range. It's just funny.
You know, it's the thing that I do usually when I paint is whatever color is going to be dominant in my painting, I try to add a little bit of that color to every mix, no matter, even to white. It'll have the slightest little dab of whatever that color is. Just seems to, for me, it seems to unify the painting, no matter what colors I'm using it, you know, because you have a little mix of that in there. The one that I'm doing right now is predominantly a lot of Naples yellow in it. So every single mix on here has a little dab of Naples yellow. Even like my stuff that's almost black, there's a little dab of it in there.
Well, it makes sense. You know, there's this other school of thought, which is in, you know, putting a little bit of your complement in the colors that you're using. Where, you know, it was interesting because I'm a little bit colorblind and I always struggle with this stuff, especially reds and greens. I was doing an apple the other night, and it didn't start to look right until I went back through all the reds with little bits of green.
Mm. Yeah, that apple ended up looking like more of an apple than the apple that you were painting.
That was hard. That was unaccountably hard. I was kind of shocked at how hard it was to paint the apple. I thought, oh, this would be easy peasy.
I'll just give myself an
Just
apple.
an apple.
No,
Humans have been painting apples for thousands of years. How hard could it be? Whoa.
All right.
Is that the sound of somebody dropping in?
It was not.
I think that might have been a message on my iPad.
Ah,
Somebody just cast a spell.
there's magic going on.
Magic is afoot.
Leo, you were saying that you have played like D&D. Have you ever been the dungeon master, or do you generally are you generally
We have a group that's been going for, I don't know, about 4 years now.
nice?
We have a guy who's normally running it, but when he burns out, we'll have a month or so that I'll take over it, run a small thing,
Nice.
give him a break. But it's a lot of work to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I've never played it, but I had a friend that was very much into it and plays a lot of other, like she does LARPing and stuff and the Vampire Masquerade, and
Oh, cool.
it's really cool to like watch and listen to, but I was like, man, that is, you gotta be, I don't know, you gotta be confident or how, I don't know, I've never felt very confident about joining in on those.
I'm fine when I'm playing with other nerds and I'm, in the comfort.
Yeah.
But if there's, like, if my wife has friends over or something, I always feel super dorky.
Yeah, totally. Like watch and listen to, but I was like, man, that is. Oh, there we go.
We've been playing a game called a role-playing game called Call of Cthulhu.
Oh yeah.
It's been an ongoing campaign that I think we're like 3 years in now. We have maybe about another year before we finally that's my dedicated Monday night.
Nice. Yeah, I think my friend has mentioned that one because she loves role-playing games and also the sea. So pretty, yeah, she makes these really cool underwater jewelry that are like very nautical themed, and yeah, her husband and her actually met during a LARPing for the Vampire the Masquerade, so they were both dressed up as zombie vampires, and that's how they met and they fell in love. So it's pretty, like, if you can fall in love while you're both zombie vampires, it's pretty good time.
Material right there.
Zombie vampires.
Yeah,
Why not?
why not?
I've just always been obsessed with this stuff since I was a kid. Remember there's been a few defining moments in my life that I look back on and see how the trajectory changed at that moment,
Yeah.
And one of them was being at the mall with my parents, and we passed by this store that had all these little metal figurines in the window. And I remember just being enthralled, and my parents like trying to tear me away from this window. Like, come on, I go. And I was like, what is this? And it's never left me. It has been as big a part of my life as art has been since I was a kid, man. And
That's so
it's
cool.
informed my art,
Heck yeah. Fantasy. Definitely. It makes it so you can play around with reality a lot,
Mhm.
which is definitely super fun to be able to do.
The term, there's a Patrick and Jeannie Wilshire, this couple out in Pennsylvania that put on this amazing show called the LuxCon, and it's all fantasy sci-fi art. And they coined the term imaginative realism,
Mm.
and it's gaining traction. And there's before LuxCon, there wasn't really much of a market for a lot of these artists outside of just illustration gigs, you know, doing book covers and games and things like that. But LuxCon came around, and all of a sudden there's collectors coming from all over the world to attend this. There's more conventions around it springing up, and now there's huge prestigious gallery shows all over the world, again coining that term imaginative realism, stepping away from it just being fantasy art. But
That's cool. I like that. Imaginative.
It's funny, like what's in a name, you know, but
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is that any genre that's survived as long as fantasy art has is going to have some stigmas attached to it.
sure.
Mhm.
Right. And, you know, the idea of it being cheesy or dated or, you know, kind of 1980s oriented or whatever, it would be easy to jump to that conclusion if you haven't been paying attention to what people have been doing recently.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a completely different story now. And so it kind of does deserve a new name.
Mhm.
Totally. Doesn't bring up that same idea for everybody anymore. If you have that.
You know, we hit on that one of the painting jams where we were talking about illustration versus you know, fine art, and
Right.
I had, you know, spoken up about, you know, what was Michelangelo but an illustrator, you know. And you know, a lot of classical Renaissance art was that borderline fantasy art.
Totally.
Well, exactly. It's like, you know, and of course, not everybody would agree with this. You would raise some controversy by saying it, but the difference between religious art and fantasy art is only in the idea that people believe one book and not the other. You know,
Yeah.
they're both books with stories that include elements you wouldn't see in ordinary, regular day life, right? And allow for, you know, some fairly fantastic depictions.
Uh-huh.
Totally.
Like the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's not fantasy art because it's got cherubs, little flying babies. Those are real though. Your
Right.
unicorn, not so much. I was just looking at some of those medieval paintings. It's so funny because some of them are so beautiful, but then they've come out with all those collections of like, oh, here's the ones that you know aren't being put into museums as beautiful pieces of art because they were just like so goofy looking. And I don't know if everybody's seen that one, but there's this one with horses in it, and there's a horse from the side, and it looks like a very normal horse from the side, and then the one from the front is just absolutely like, how did you never see a horse from the front? Like, could you not have guessed? And the quote on it is like, yeah, so I'd like you to draw me two horses. You know how to draw a horse from the front, right? And the artist says, yeah. And, oh, I should post it on the app after this because it is just,
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
it is comical.
Yeah, there's a fairly well-known Albrecht Durer drawing of a rhinoceros, and he did it entirely from a verbal description.
Oh my god.
And he drew it in an immaculate detail, right? Because he knew how to draw detail, but he's never actually seen a rhino, and it's cool looking, right? But it's Yeah, a little bit of a fantasy creature.
Look that one up too.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna get both of those. So what it was Albrecht?
Albrecht Durer, Durer.
I think it'll be interesting to see how history treats, people like Frazetta or Giger. Is that stuff going to make it into the art history books, being taught at, the university level or what have you, 50 years from now?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Because they absolutely belong in that.
Right, but for example, Giger, a lot of people, their main exposure to him is through Alien, and so they would see him as being like responsible for this film design, and that would be his place in history as a film design guy, right? Which is just not even remotely close to what he actually was. But as far as pop culture is concerned, there are these kind of interpretations that happen.
Sure. Well, you think about, so many artists that are started a movement, or there's a certain school of art that is, associated with them, like Pablo Picasso and Cubism, and Dali with Surrealism, Van Gogh and Impressionism, things like that. And I'm like, well, we have biomechanics today, and it's become a part of the everyday artistic language for so many artists. And that was something that, he established and deserves credit in the history books.
Right, if there is any justice in the world at all.
Yes. Which is sometimes very questionable.
Right.
All right, so I've got our rhinoceros and our horse. So
All right, here, a second.
pretty fantastic.
Oh yeah, that badass.
It's cool, right? I mean, the face is not bad, right? But it's
Darn close.
It's cooler than rhinoceros.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love all the patterns on it.
It's got like a little horn on its neck there.
Oh yeah.
Shoulders,
Yeah, but imagine him just sitting with his friend, his buddy, like, having his fifth drink. He's like, yeah, they look kind of like these circular scales on the belly. Right. Yeah, like that. Yeah. But then they sort of fade off a little bit. Yeah, like that.
Yes, and his hooves are like oh, it looks like he's wearing he's got some sweet stuff going on over by his chin and stuff. Awesome. Okay, so much less pleasant looking will be the horse. Once I can get this to here we
I'm
go.
laughing in advance.
There's the there's the horse.
It's like,
oh my goodness.
Humpty Dumpty horse.
Yeah, eggs and horses are the same thing.
Right? Like,
Whoa.
Yeah,
Horse.
there's no difference.
oh, I just love. I looked at this picture for
was
like
the artist?
so long. I don't. It's like one of those ones where it's not necessarily signed, but it is something in an actual museum. I've confirmed that it is an official medieval piece of art. It wasn't just somebody like trying to make fun of it or anything. Yeah, but no artist's name to it.
No one gets credit. Bummer.
No.
Just scratched out there.
Both the curse and the blessing.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just love that so much. You know how to draw a horse from the front, right? Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, and of course, Durer, he was just a really good artist. So even though he had no idea what he was doing, he could just make it look good.
Yeah, it still looks cool and like, yeah, that animal could exist, even if it's not exactly like that. I could imagine it exists like that.
Well, I mean, there might have been 300 years where like the majority of Europe thought that was a rhinoceros, you know?
Totally. They see a rhinoceros
Oh,
in real
yeah.
life, they're like, oh,
Our finest naturalist, Albrecht Durer, you've seen his rabbit, right? It looks exactly like a rabbit, so here's his rhinoceros.
exactly. Oh, that's so funny.
Well, it's kind of like a police sketch.
Exactly.
You know, like he did that all off just a description, and he came pretty close. Like that's pretty good.
Yeah, if you had to find that rhinoceros, for a police matter, you'd find it with
Yeah,
that.
Right, see one and check. I'm no zoologist, but that was-
That's about as close as it's gonna get, I think.
One time, I was out. Hey, I was in my 20s. I was out just drinking with some friends, and one of them's like, "Let's go back to my place. My wife should be like done peeking by now." I'm like, "Oh, really? Okay." So we go back there. She's like, "Honey, I just got visited by aliens. They give me a full pelvic examination." Like, really? Can we like try to do the police sketch thing? She's like, "Yeah, sure." So for 2 hours, I sat there and drew this alien as she was like, "Yeah, the mouth, make it just a little narrower." But it was exactly your gray alien. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like, to a T, your classic gray. There's nothing different about it at all. It was fun though.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, she must be done peeking. You're like, I'm sorry, what? She's just been hanging out there by herself. Oh. That'd be quite the job doing the police sketches. Holy smokes.
Yeah, and I think they're doing it all with digital tools now.
Oh, of course.
Every department might not be, but like they
Yeah.
can just drop a different nose on and
Yeah.
make it larger, smaller, wider. It's kind of funny. It's kind of like when you're making your Me and your Wii game, except you have way more features to choose from.
Yes, like a super detailed version of that.
They no longer look so Napoleon Dynamite.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think I might be forced to keep this thing a lot more loose than I've made the other ones this week, but I've been trying to get loose. And I know Leo is not the person to ask about this.
That's an exercise I need to force myself to do.
Yeah.
I think that it would benefit.
That's what I've been focusing on a lot lately too.
It doesn't come naturally when you tattoo, and normally it's not encouraged, right?
Yeah,
Trying to dial that stuff in.
exactly.
Yeah.
But, I was thinking about the other day when we did our frog drawings. I was making everybody work so fast. But I like that, I enjoy that. I hope that's not too much of a pain for people. But normally there's no guideline at all for how long something should take, right? So
Yeah.
every time you open up a sketchbook page or whatever, you in theory could, be embarking on something that could be 2 weeks long.
Definitely. I've been appreciating the fastness for the exercises, and then just like trying to keep it loose enough that I'm actually finishing it by the time we're back to Monday. So I definitely find it's a good exercise for me.
I found that that's like a thing that I can do when I'm I know I'm going to be on the phone for a while, is I'll just get one of those out and work on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got a frog, the toad rather.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with the toad.
Yeah.
Tavon, you had so much fun. You did all 4 of them.
Full on, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't decide which one I liked the best, and for some reason I just couldn't sleep that night. So I'm like, might as well use the time, and yeah, did 4 of them. And I'll probably actually pick one and work on it a little bit tomorrow before tomorrow night.
Nice. Holy moly.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to our finals project for this round, because you know, I want to really like combine all the tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll do a tattoo where I'm really following all of my own advice, but it's always a little bit of a push to. I mean, it's just like you know what healthy eating is, right? Does that mean that every meal that you make is going to be healthy eating? No.
No.
And it's kind of the same thing when we tattoo. We know in our mind what would be perfect. You know, if we were to be a perfect straight A student with every single thing that we did, but that's just not reality.
Totally. So Melissa just joined us as well.
All right, hey Melissa,
Hey guys.
Hi.
Hey.
you working on something that you had in progress, or is this a new?
Well, I had this line drawing of this creature and I was debating about working on the oil painting that I've been working on. I thought this fitted a little bit more. So I don't have any paint on there just yet. But this is the gist. I'll be pulling this up so I can get sky and whatnot in because I have not gessoed. But according to this, it's pre-primed.
What's the plan for the background?
I'm sticking with roughly the same kind of landscape as the elements final that we did.
Okay.
I don't know if the colors will be the same or not, but because that's sitting out at my shop on display at the moment.
Oh, nice.
I think that my main question would just be: is there any reason the creature is not bigger in the composition?
I didn't want it to take up the whole composition, and I didn't want it to be centered.
Okay. All right. I mean, especially if you're planning on doing cool stuff with the background, you know, like with Leo's Manticore, there's, you know, you need to dedicate some surface area to that. Right on.
Yeah, I feel like I remember you having that creature laid out as a possible thing to add to the finals.
Yeah, it was just a little too busy to do it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that would have been too much. I think we all had our hands full just trying to get the elements right.
Yeah, I tend to bite off a little bit more than I can chew.
Oh yeah, I feel you. I'm definitely just finishing something that I started on one of our other things and had no chance to
You know, biting off too much, as long as it's not in terms of like your tattooing abilities, the rest of the time, I think that's actually a good habit, because otherwise you're probably somebody that stays in your comfort zone a lot.
Yeah.
Totally.
I typically try to challenge myself with tattoos. With painting, I tend to go a little bit above and beyond, but that's because I don't really have a good grasp of capabilities yet.
Yeah.
I used to work in dry medium, so paint is a new thing.
Dry medium. Oh, dry mediums like pencils and
Yeah.
yeah. yeah, that was always my big favorite one, was pencils and then ink and pencil crayon, watercolor pencil
Okay.
crayon.
I did a lot of charcoal with that for about 17 years.
Nice.
Yeah, charcoal does have some, I think, parallels with painting, you know, in that, you know, once you've put it down, you can blend it and kind of work it a little bit, lift it and move it around some.
Right.
Yeah, I've never really tried too much of it.
I should probably do a charcoal Zoom thing one of these times.
That'd be cool. These have been the reason that I've tried oils, and it's definitely something I'm very happy that I've gotten into now. So
Yeah, I definitely would love to have a couple really good watercolor artists come on here and instruct us.
Yeah.
That would be great.
definitely.
Love to get Dan Marshall.
Dan Marshall.
Dan Marshall is a former tattooer. He actually worked with Paul Booth for a chunk of time there. He was there with Tim Kern and Jeremiah Barba. And yeah, he is completely, you know, gone from like dark artist to very classic watercolor painter. And he's just incredible. Incredible.
That's interesting. People's evolutions.
Yeah, you know, there's so few of us that leave tattooing and move on to other things.
Mhm.
I think that, you know, it's hard to beat in these. I think a lot of people who've gotten used to being an artist with a steady paycheck, they leave tattooing and they are right back to it a month later. Okay, that was interesting.
Yep. And that's the beauty of tattooing, is it's like you can still do all of, like, we're able to do all of these art forms, and if you want you can try and sell them and stuff, but it's like if it's not your only bread and butter, then it's a lot easier.
Yes, you're not going to go hungry. Yeah, that was definitely one of the things that I read about when I was young and I was reading about artists' lives. There's so many of the great, you know, the big names in art history. Rembrandt being one of them, Monet, Van Gogh, of course. And these guys all starved, you know. They all had financial problems, problems with the tax man. And I think one big mistake that some of them made, and I think this was Monet and Rembrandt, and I've always tried to take this to heart. Just because you have a stellar year doesn't mean you should say, okay, that's my yearly income from now on. And, you know, then go and sign a mortgage on a house and, you know, buy a power boat while you're at it.
Yeah.
Better to just say, okay, I had a great year. Hopefully next year will be as good.
Yeah.
And, keep your expectations dialed down a little bit. You know, it's like rap stars. They're notorious for, you know, I want a house with 27 stripper poles. No, 50 stripper poles. And then, you know, that particular album's sales start to slow down a little bit. And they're like, oh no, I got to put out another album. And then that one doesn't sell as well.
Yeah.
They don't, you know, put out the hits as easily. And yeah, all of a sudden they've been in and out of this house in 3 years.
Yeah. Maybe that's, yeah, I'm just always like, whenever I see a lot of rappers, especially nowadays, they'll just have like horrific tattoos. And I'm like, you make so much money and you like brag about how much money you have. And then you go and get somebody to tattoo you and it's like, crap, why?
Okay, same with athletes, and I'll tell you why. It's because of tattooers that end up on the tour bus.
There you go.
Right? And these are not going to be a really good, well-established artists
Yeah.
who own shops and are, you know, married with kids or whatever. These are going to be the young ones that can do that, right?
That's a really good.
And they're not necessarily going to be great, but they might be able to give these folks what they think they want. You know, it's like, oh yeah, you want a Lakers logo? I'll do those all day long. And, yeah.
Totally. That's a really good point.
So I think that's
what bothers me.
Yeah, it should bother you. It ain't right. It's like, come on.
No,
There's really good people out there, tons of them, like more than you could ever count. And you've got data.
And you actually got money for it. Oh.
It's also like TV cribs and once in a while there's somebody that has a really cool setup, you know, but a lot of the time I'm like, man, with that kind of money, I would have like Harry Houdini, Scooby-Doo craziness in my house.
You'd have some like bookshelves that open up the door to your basement kind of thing.
I'd have the guy hired just to sit in the wall behind the painting with eyes and people.
Why not?
I mean, I'd rather have that than the TV that, you know, levitates off your bed.
Right, that's pretty lame.
Totally.
Well, a lot of people just don't have much imagination when it comes to this stuff.
Totally. Yeah, I remember my friend and I, we always imagined having a house together, and it was going to have a giant walnut shell, like half walnut shell that we would have to create so that you could get into it, and then there'd be a pulley system that you'd have to pull yourself up to the second floor with. And I was like, man, why aren't all houses just like that? So cool. And you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to try and make that. Yeah, right. I'll have to wait until I'm mega rich.
Yeah, it's hard enough even just coming up with like a cool like stair rail or something like that.
Yeah.
Once you get into home ownership and you start doing the really fancy stuff, that's the other thing. If you customize your house too much, Michelle and I are really guilty of this, you end up with something that nobody can repair but you.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Like, oh, great. Yep.
Now, Lyle Tuttle said it well. He said, let me tell you something, guy. For every improvement, there's maintenance. Because he was, I'd heard that he was working on a pond, that he'd gotten some kind of a backhoe and he was making a pond on his property in California. I asked him about it, and that was his answer. And I guess he gave up on it, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Because he's right. Now that we've been at this place since '96, we've done a lot of really custom stuff to it. Yeah. Right now is one of those stretches of time where there's a lot of maintenance going on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that stuff is rotted through the years, and you know, no one will fix it but me.
And it all
it's
happens
too darn cut. Yeah.
Of course.
We just built a pond this past year, and it's awesome, but man, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Like to keep
Well,
up.
that is it. That is if you maintain it the right way, you know, which we never really did.
Yeah, we were thinking about putting in a pond as well. They're so nice.
Well, one of the problems that happened with ours is beavers moved in.
Oh, geez.
And
that's right.
right. And you know, we're compassionate people and animal lovers, and I haven't eaten meat since 1998. And it's like, well, okay, let's just let them live there for a while and see what happens. And then 6 months later, they've taken over the second pond. It's like, okay,
Oh my God.
kind of war now. And so we hired a trapper, with the idea that we were paying him extra to live trap them and move them elsewhere. And, so every time one ended up in the trap, I'd call him and I'd help him go out there and snare them. And these are some seriously large rodents, and pissed off. And, one of them was 65 pounds.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. I mean, my daughter is 65 pounds and she can kick my ass.
She doesn't have crazy teeth.
And they would get snared by the tail, and you get out there an hour later and there's an 8 or 10 foot circle of just mud where they've destroyed everything trying to get loose. And so, we went through this whole wrenching process of moving this whole family of beavers, and 4 months later we've got new beavers. Like,
No.
okay, I guess we have beavers. Yeah. And I think that what they'll tell you, if you want your pond to last, you don't want them. But yeah.
Huh. But yeah, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Even if you actually killed them, then there'd be new beavers. So it's like,
You just have to get ready to kill lots of beavers, and
God.
that's not my thing.
No, that's
giant pythons in your pond, man.
Well, I actually figured it out. Like if I could start all over again and was a rich dude that could call in the excavators to redo the whole pond, which by the way would be about 15 or 20 grand.
Yeah.
There's places where the beavers can build their lodge without damaging the pond. They just don't choose those places. So if I were to bury chain link fencing 3 inches under the dirt in all the places where we don't want beavers, and not put the chain link fencing in the places where it's okay for them to reside, then they might actually settle into the right places. So, in a different life where I'm at liberty to mess around with things like that.
Yeah. Holy moly. Beavers. I wouldn't have even prepared to think about beavers being there.
Well, it's funny because, they're especially active in the wintertime. So if I were to go out there right now, it's possible I'd hear the chewing sound. Just kind of and you wait a minute, and then if you catch them at the right time, you'll then hear the timber sound, the tree coming down.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're going hard at it this time of year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, long story short, you are correct. There is maintenance involved.
No idea that they were more active in the winter.
Yeah,
I think that during the summer they can just graze anytime they want. They can be like, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go and chew on something. But when the entire landscape is frozen,
Sure.
I also think that they try to avoid going out as much as they can, so that they don't get bobcatted or whatever. And so what they do is they during the winter, they'll just take a bunch of trees down and chop them up into 18-inch lengths, which they then bury in the mud under the pond. And it's like a refrigerator. And they'll just go and grab these logs, and that they're bark eaters. That's where they get their nutrition.
interesting.
Huh.
I actually didn't know that. I thought that they just chewed it up.
Yeah, they're bark eaters, and they. I could go on and on about fascinating beaver facts, but that's not why we're here tonight. Yeah, I've never been a person that's felt inclined to shoot anything on our landscape, even though it's not all convenient.
Yeah.
Like the vulture family is another one. They were here first. There's a
Yeah.
derelict barn in the back of the property, and they live there, but they just happen to love the tattoo studio. So they hang around the tattoo studio, and they crap on the stoop.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly, actually. It's, you know, it's bird poop. It's just white and liquid, but, you know, still.
The bigger the bird.
Well, and they tap dance in it. They wash their legs with it.
Oh, lovely.
I guess it's better than the carcass stuff that's otherwise stuck to their.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And so, yeah, they leave these little footprints that look like cartoon skeleton bird feet. Actually, perfect. But yeah, the other day I was interviewing Tommy Lee Wentner, and the whole time I'm trying to talk to him and keep a straight face, and there's a vulture dance going on. There's 3 of them outside, and one of them, and yeah, these guys have a 7-foot wingspan. Okay, they've all got their wings out, right? They're hopping around right outside the window, hopping around, going berserk. But one of them is doing this weird thing where he's got his legs bent, and you know, their knees go backwards, right? And his legs are bent, and he's just hopping around and making this nah, nah, nah kind of sound. And this went on most of the time while I was doing the interview. It's pretty interesting.
That's hilarious.
Wild. You got like Mutual of Omaha.
Yeah, Jordan Rookus was just talking about the vultures at your place on the tattoo collecting podcast. He was talking about like just laying there, getting his tattoo and looking out at the couple of vultures and how beautiful.
So yeah, they live like 50 years, 50, 60 years.
Wow.
So this family has been here before we got here. And they'll put out a pair of chicks every couple of years. And the chicks look like cream colored fuzzy basketballs with black snake heads coming out of the top.
Wow.
Talking about fantasy creatures. But yeah, they're full on Skeksis. They really are.
Yes. I was just thinking that about some turkeys that I saw yesterday. Like, you are Skeksis, little tiny Skeksis. Man, I have not figured out eyes yet with paint, and I gave this creature like a friggin' million of them. For some reason.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, I just recently ordered a bunch of paint pens. These are acrylic, basically markers, acrylic paint markers. I'm just going to see how that is to work details.
What brand are they?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I ordered a couple different ones.
I've
I
only tried.
remember hanging around with Klaus. I was hanging around with Klaus Spearman at a convention, and he had a bunch of paintings that he had done using the paint markers. They're pretty cool. I mean, it looks. I mean, the lines are all very uniform in thickness, so you could tell that it was not a brush. It's a different look, and it either improves or it doesn't. So I guess I'll find out. Probably it would be, you know, a good underpainting tool. I'm kind of a purist when it comes to the way the finished the finish of the painting looks. I want it to be pretty classic and pretty consistent.
Oh,
Oh boy.
dinner's done.
So how's everybody's coming along? Especially the folks who started something tonight. I finally got my canvas covered. Should we take a minute to spotlight? At this point, it's just 4 of us.
There is 6 people on here.
Oh, 6 of us, nice. Oh yeah, sorry, Melissa's here. Let's see.
Okay. So I'm gonna start with yours, Guy. You're on the first thing here.
It's pretty loose. I don't know, it doesn't look like much yet, but you can tell that it's some kind of a egg clutching beak thing.
Yeah, the
That's
eggs
where
are
we're at so far.
The eggs are starting to really come together for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to do a painting of eggs tomorrow.
Nice.
Just because that's another one like an apple. I'm probably going to get my ass kicked, but I'm going to do it.
Vulture egg?
No, these are just chicken eggs that the lady down the street has been bringing us.
Cool.
I'll probably, in fact, I'll give her the painting of the eggs because what else am I going to do with a painting of eggs, right? But I'll give the lady that's been giving us eggs.
That's nice. All right, Leo, I'm on yours now.
Away on this
Oh,
tail.
wow. Nice.
Nice.
So you're giving it a lot of the shine tonight.
Yeah, I mean it's still in its very loose base coat stage, basically.
Yeah, is it going to pick up a little bit more contrast still?
Yeah, eyes all cooked on and polish it up better.
That's so cool. The sky behind it just looks so beautiful too.
Yeah, I just love the atmosphere of it.
Thank you.
So we've got Connor Foley on there. I'm bringing you up now.
Oh wow, my camera looks terrible.
It's a little dark.
Yeah, I found it in the closet, so that's. Let's see if it's a little better if I move it a bit. Kind of. Can't seem to get a good. It's a pretty big one, so.
Mm-hmm.
Killer.
That.
Going through and doing just some bits of white to pull some shapes forward and kind of playing with stuff.
Oh,
And just messing with textures on like the arm and face and such.
Nice.
is this oil or acrylic?
This is acrylic.
What size is it?
What's the size of it?
Yeah.
I don't know the exact bit, but I mean, where's my hand? That's my hand.
Nice.
It's big.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good size.
I really wish it was oil right now for blending's sake, but you know, it's just taking a little longer than it.
You could always do a final pass in oils.
Yeah, I could actually. That actually might be the move.
Nice.
But yeah, a better camera. That is really bad. Like,
Tavon, I'm bringing you up now.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
taking
that's
shades.
Pretty loose, but just kind of working it out.
That's looking sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, it's got a great mood to it already.
Yeah, I like the lighting the most. That's probably the most striking thing about it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's hard to nail that kind of moonlighting.
Yeah, I mean that was let's see, what was I put a layer down and brought back the opacity on it, and then so I just filled it in all dark blue and then brought the opacity down and then just started erasing it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Have I already asked you if you follow James Gurney?
I believe I do. I follow so many people; it's so hard to keep track of everyone. But
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. His posts are cool though because he always explains what he's doing, and he had a really cool post about painting moonlit scenes. Advice on keeping them clear and readable, and making the most out of the very limited color and light that you have available.
yeah, I've actually been trying to focus on that a lot lately. It's like using less color and just trying to be able to get the a lot of depth and mostly just using darks and lights basically.
Yeah, so then color is sort of like almost a bonus after that.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Melissa, I'm gonna add you on here now.
Oh yeah.
Sorry if I've got a bit of background noise.
Yeah.
I'm loving the colors.
So are you going to add the figure after that's dried? Is that the
Yeah,
plan?
I tend to find it easier to not have to like cookie cutter around things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And because it wasn't because I didn't prime the panel or the canvas, because I ran out of time, I figured I'd just do an acrylic underpainting and then roll with oil at a later point.
Nice.
Yep.
Awesome.
So
So that's
I've-
acrylics then.
Yeah, this is all acrylic at the moment.
Okay.
All right. And this is where I'm at the moment.
Oh yeah.
I haven't gotten too much farther, but another mushroom has arrived, and I'm just meticulously trying these friggin' eyeballs. There are so many of them. But it's gonna look cool when it's all done.
It'll be a good exercise for you too.
Yeah,
I like the lighting effect in there. It's nice.
thank you. Yeah, by the time the last eyeball gets done, it'll be like such a good eyeball, and then I'll have to do all the other ones again or something.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how it should be, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things is that in some ways you almost have to reach a plateau before you embark on a large project
Yeah.
so that you're not visibly evolving while you're working on it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've got a big thing I'll be working on when I'm done with all these still lifes, and it's that thing that I built a model for last year.
Oh, sweet.
And part of me is almost wishing that, well, I might actually bring the model in and set it up next to where I'm painting, because I'm still gonna, lay it out the way I normally would using a projector and everything, and having an optimized Photoshop completed, reference. But I think it might be interesting if I were to also have the thing in the room while I'm painting, and try to refer to it more in real life than I do from the photo, just to see if I can gain something from all this still life experience.
Yeah.
Mhm. Totally.
So yeah, next Sunday we've got Nick Baxter joining us for another session, and that's going to be a still life.
Cool. Awesome.
And he, of course, does these very meticulous, like long project kind of still lifes, but I think we'll be doing some kind of a single night project.
Nice.
Of course, it's different when you have a photo reference, right? And I think the only way that we could all have the same still life scene is using photos, right? But it's still something I think we can kind of fake it, pretend that we've got the real thing in front of us. It's just, you know, you miss out on the chance to, you can't move your head back and forth or look more closely at something and say, how close are those together if I move my head a little bit? And then, you know, that spacing is slightly better, you know, end up making minor adjustments throughout the painting process that way. That, you know, neighboring shapes might be too close to each other in a way that's hard to read, but if you shift your head just a little bit, they open up somewhat.
Yeah, there's definitely a whole bunch of differences when you're just having it in front of you, for sure. I haven't done that for a long time either.
I haven't really ever done it. I remember when Michelle and I were first, you know, dating way back in the day. She tried to get me doing a few still lifes, and I was just like, that's boring. But it's definitely a stretch doing a bunch of them like this.
Yeah, good challenge. Holy moly.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been pretty blown away by them. I love that one that Michelle did of the honeycomb and the butterfly. I don't know if it was a honeycomb.
Yeah, that's what that was.
Yeah, like that. Wow, that must have been a bit of a longer one. That's so much cool detail.
Yeah, I think she also, with that one, she was allowing herself to be looser than she has been with with many of them. And of course, it looks great. Yet many of us still struggle to loosen up.
No, for sure. I feel like I have such a hard time with that, for sure. I'll like start loose, and then, you know, you're still painting or drawing or whatever you're doing, and then you just keep going over it, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, this isn't loose at all anymore.
Yeah. And that might just be tattooers' bad habits there.
I remember that was like a big thing, has been a big thing for me for probably as long as I've like drawn, which is pretty much since I was 2. So I'm sure maybe when I was 2, I was totally cool with it. But like, I remember when I was a teenager, it took me a long time to get drawings into an actual nice sketchbook, because I was just like, it has to be perfect if it's going in this book. And I was like,
yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Have to justify the paper usage.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas when I was little, my dad was working at a newspaper, and so we had all of the leftovers clippings from when like you would usually do the actual copy and paste techniques, and so we had like infinite paper, and so there was never any need to worry about that. So then I guess when it was like really nice paper, I got all weird about it. But I love looking at people's sketchbooks that have imperfect things and little half-done things, and it's like so interesting to see.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you're sketching something and you've completed the thought.
Yeah.
You know, and when you look at that sketch, you know exactly what you meant by it. If it ever is going to go farther into a painting or a tattoo or whatever, you've got enough information there. And
Yeah.
any more time spent on it would just simply be, I don't say wasted, but pointless. And in fact, you might lose some of the raw beauty behind that idea.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, I've also, with these, I've been trying not to bring the background color meticulously all the way up and wrap it around the edges and make everything perfect like that. There's a part of me that is just inclined to do that. And I ask myself, am I being an artist when I do that? Or am I being like a frame shop employee? You know, I mean, what kind of sensibility am I even appealing to here? And so, yeah, I've just been trying to escape this way of thinking, and it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
There's a perfectionist side. And of course, a lot of it is, what is your definition of perfection?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to revisit that too. And to me, a definition of perfection would definitely include, having enough of the artist's fire. You know what I mean? Enough of their natural movement, of their intuitive stabs at the panel, where it's
Mm-hmm.
not all carefully blended out. It's not all been given a second thought and a third chance and all that, but instead a lot of it is just the first thing that came out of that artist in its raw form.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Totally.
That's definitely something I struggle with.
Yeah.
Well, and like with these, okay, I want it saturated enough or it just doesn't look finished. Even, if it's loose, it still has to be saturated enough. And so in the course of saturating it, of going over the entire surface enough to where there's not all those little white bristle marks where it's lifted the paint back up. In the course of doing that, it ends up being more blended and less, less of that intuitive thing, less of that random chance. So I then come back in and try to add it, and it looks a little contrived. So I'm just not used to it, new thing for me. I'm trying to be patient with myself.
Totally. I think you'll get farther that way anyways. Beating yourself up about any of it's just going to make it like a less pleasurable experience and not really get you any farther. So
I think a lot of people are just not patient enough with themselves.
Totally. I agree.
If art is painful for you, then you're not being patient enough with yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people have expectations of, they feel not only do they want to do this well as they can see in their mind's eye, well, they can't think of any good reason why they can't.
Yeah.
Right? And so when they don't succeed at it, at least as well as they'd like to, it's easy to just feel defeatist.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember who was saying it on the machine building panel, but somebody was saying failure is the path to success, I think.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's a great lesson for everybody doing anything.
It hurts though.
Yeah, oh yeah. You don't
hurts.
want that to be true, but if you can accept it to be true, then you might feel a little bit better.
Well, I mean, at least then when something doesn't work out, you can look at it and say, okay, what can I get out of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a learning, that comes with all of that.
Yeah.
It's not all just damage.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like even when I have successful paintings, I can always, my eye always goes to the parts that weren't successful for me. No matter how much I try to ignore that, but that's okay. I feel like I'm learning in that process.
Totally.
I
Then
feel
you're like, oh, I'm gonna
confident
do this next time.
I feel more confident in that the idea that I can have the eye to know what didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
This Manticore
Yeah, and so
has been a nonstop.
if you look at something that you did, if you look at something that you did and you see flaws in it, just be grateful that you have the ability to see those flaws. Because if you
Exactly.
didn't have those that ability, you would never improve.
Yeah.
But it does hurt.
Yeah. Not comfortable.
One of my challenges with this one is that the reference itself is very weathered, very old and weathered and pitted, and which is, I think it looks cool. I'd like to be able to convey some of that. Like, can I make it look weathered and pitted and not just sloppy?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that just comes with putting in enough hours. And there might be shortcuts to it, but I haven't found them yet. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do except look at it and say, it just needs more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that by the time we get through this whole series, that I will feel that I've plateaued a little bit. And I was hoping to identify a few things with this series that I wanted to improve. So I could set some short-term goals. And actually, let me show you a couple. This one right here. This is the first one I did, and I like it.
Oh,
Right,
wow.
it's pretty good. It's also one of the quickest ones, and if you look closely, one of the loosest. And I've gone darker with my background since this one. I think mostly they've looked better. But the sense of luminosity, the sense of really seeing the light shine, I don't know, it's just not captured here. And I think if I were to go back and glaze over this, I could easily nail it, right? But I want to be able to get that with one session, do that a la prima. So that's one of my objectives.
Awesome.
I also have kind of really gotten comfortable working with panels instead of canvases, at least for these small sizes, because the ones that I've done on panels I just think look better because we don't have those little tiny pixels in the canvas.
Yeah.
And normally I like the little tiny pixels, but I think that below a certain size, maybe not so much. think that's one of the things that I discovered about myself with these is I don't like the canvas nap on the really small paintings.
I've been wanting to get back to painting on canvas. It's been a while since I've done that.
Are you painting on wood right now, Leo?
Yeah, it's a gesso board.
Oh, there you go. Wild. It's funny, my dad, he used to paint a lot, and he didn't have very much money, so it would be on cardboard. And he still has some beautiful paintings. They're like probably maybe a little, some of them are actually the same size as what you're doing. And they're just a big piece of cardboard. It's like this gorgeous painting, and then you like look at what it's on, and you're like, wait a minute, it's like a box.
Uh-huh.
Like corrugated cardboard?
Yeah,
Uh,
like a fridge box or something.
I recently discovered that one of my favorite bands, their first album cover, their drummer does all their art, and you know, their first album cover was done on a scrap piece of cardboard that he had lying around, like a shipping box.
There you go.
Nice.
Too funny.
yeah, I just got a couple of sheets of masonite and just chopped them up into a bunch of odd sizes. And I think for doing something larger, I might still prefer canvas because those pixels, they allow you to sort of, I don't know, they hide the flaws in your brushwork. And when you're working with a surface that's this smooth, those flaws are just much more obvious, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, I've got a little bit of them. I'm gonna have to try them out. They're just a little bit bigger than the other stuff that I've got right now, so I haven't gotten myself up to that yet.
But yeah, like Michelle has a couple of really large panels. And then, well, I mean, you can see how much time that that Leo ends up dumping into his, you know,
Yeah.
gesso board. It's just the resolution of the detail is so fine
Yeah.
that there's really no upper limit at all to where you can take that obsessive detail.
You know, when I first started working on board or panel rather than canvas, one of the things that I found the most amazing about it was just glazes. I felt were for me a lot easier to work with because you didn't have your glaze kind of seeping into the little pores of the canvas. It just allowed me to manipulate it a bit easier without that canvas texture.
I haven't tried glazes yet.
Yeah, I think that that would almost require a two-part seminar, right? But maybe we'll need to do that at some point. It might be fun. Into the glazing.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm just trying to imagine what that would consist of, right? But you know, we would have a project that we would lay out the first week. Maybe we would do 2 consecutive days. That could be fun too. And then just come back and add all the subtle lighting and atmosphere and everything else.
It's amazing how it can change a piece.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, here's where I really run into that that self-imposed limit because I'm working with such a big brush. I'm trying to render out these scales, but I'm trying not to render out the scales. I think that's part of the whole point. I'm trying to put myself in a position where I can't really.
The lighting's looking really cool on that, like very clear light source.
It's starting to get directional. It's not quite there. But thank you. Yeah, the lighting on the actual sculpture isn't as strong as I would have liked to make it. But my whole setup that I've put together here is kind of like set up around this more miniaturized, like the little gray paper setup that I've been using. And this guy's too big to fit on that. And so it doesn't fit within the jurisdiction of my lighting setup. And I just kind of, before I knew it, it was time to get on the Zoom call. And here we are. But yeah, I feel like this is actually starting to take some shape, and I'm trying to figure out like where I'm going with it now that it does have some kind of clarity to it. Like what I mean by where I'm going with it. What's the finished look? Do I want to, you know, one of the things I would really like to have is a little bit more paint buildup, a little impasto. And I think that's another thing that I'm going to be doing with those. I'm going to do more of the wrinkled paper pieces. And I love the idea of having some real thick buildup in the wrinkles of the paper. I think that would be a neat look. So, yeah, the other day, we just placed an art supply order, and Michelle ordered some modeling paste for building paint up a lot thicker. So yeah, see how that goes.
I see. It's like textures the paint.
Yeah, it gives it some body so that you can build it up without throwing away gigantic amounts of $40 tube paint.
That makes a lot of sense. Oh man.
Another artist who has been doing still lifes lately is actually another former tattoo artist, David Heskin. And he and his partner, Aloria Weaver, have been reinventing themselves artistically this last couple of years and just trying to learn every classic lettering styles and stone carving and you name it.
Wow.
And then this month, David is pushing himself through a bunch of still lifes. Really neat.
I did a painting trade with David years ago.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've got one of his pieces hanging up also as a result of a tattoo barter.
Nice.
I love the tattoo barter thing.
That is the best.
Doesn't always work out for everything, but when it does, it's always amazing.
Agreed.
I'll tell you from experience, you don't want to find an accountant. Tattoo, not recommended.
Good to know. I have one woman that's bartering. She's got chickens that she ends up every slaughtering, and so we have little homegrown chickens as one of our barters for her tattoos.
You think they're good?
Agreed. And it's funny because people are always like, are you sure like this works out? I'm like, this is even better than money. Now I don't have to worry about getting chickens or getting whatever it is that I'm bartering. It's great. Like you have to have a certain amount to take care of other stuff, but like I love it. And it makes it so that some people can actually get tattoos when they might not have been able to physically afford it with money.
True, yeah. It's been an interesting thing at the end of every night of doing these still lifes, looking at all the still lifes that other people are posting. And there's well over 100 artists that are involved in the challenge. It'd be interesting if, see more tattooers doing challenges like this, but of course it's hard, right? When you're actually like, tattooing all day long. But yeah, you got that small percentage that's being done by people who clearly do it all the time.
Yeah.
And then you've got a whole bunch of pretty interesting stuff that you can actually, if you look at the same names across multiple weeks, you can see that progression.
That's so cool.
I hope I'm able to see progression in my own by the end of this, because it's an unreasonable amount of work.
For someone who already has enough work that it's already going on.
How much you're able to take on, man?
Yeah, I don't know actually how. Yeah, it seemed like no big deal. Michelle suggested it, and I sat down and did the first one, and I thought, only took 90 minutes. Yeah, okay. That's just not how things go. Especially if you're like me, you're gonna have a tendency to make things a little bit more complicated. It's like, okay, last night I did this, so surely I have to make it at least 10% harder tonight.
Yeah, I remember in school I would almost never finish projects on time just because I would get them too complicated. I've got to do this and like, whoa, what? Like, why did you have to do that? Now you can't finish it at all.
Yeah, and I think that for anybody who's going into, an art profession as their future, gonna have to learn to navigate that, right?
Yep.
There's the idealized version that in your heart of hearts that you could do if all conditions were just right.
Yeah.
But then there's reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll definitely be curious to see what Nick's approach to still life would be for something a la prima like this,
Hmm.
because he is such a renderer usually.
Yeah.
But when he did the landscape, he was very economical about it. I was impressed.
Yeah, he busted that out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No messing around.
That was crazy. I did not realize how hard that was going to be. There was just so much reason for that was way more hard than I had anticipated. Oh yeah, it's a little beach scene, and then you're like, oh my God, what's with these little rocks and puddles? How am I supposed to do them?
Well, you find ways of just suggesting them, right? And
Yeah.
that's the trick. That is the trick. And like that Rosetta painting we were looking at earlier, it looks like there's so much action going on. And that each of the figures that he's battling is a fully fleshed out figure. But in fact, there's a lot of kind of murky chaos with these figures kind of resolving out of it. Just enough shown of each one that you get the sense of the whole character. And so the more that we can do that, the better.
Yeah.
He suggests a lot more than he reveals.
Like you're creating this illusion that convinces people that's what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, just like when you're painting a tree, you don't have to paint every single leaf, right? You might just paint a few clusters of leaves, spaced sort of organically around, and then the leaves that are farther back are going to be less rendered and just suggested. Or I'm sure you remember when you were a little kid, when you drew a brick wall, you draw a couple of loose clusters of here and there, but you wouldn't draw every darn brick. It wouldn't make it a better, drawing to draw every brick.
Totally.
And now I've reached that point where I'm exaggerating the lighting. And I hate to exaggerate compared to, I'm looking at a real life object. I just feel like I need to with this one, or else it's going to be flat. So, you just want to make sure you're looking at what's really there, and whatever exaggeration that you're doing, that it has some relationship with reality.
Mm-hmm.
Who here is familiar with Travis Louis?
Yeah.
He does a lot of those sort of crazy miniature portrait characters. But yeah, he's the interview subject for, actually he's got moved Tuesday to Wednesday. It's going to be Wednesday this coming week. But I think what we're going to be talking about, and not just interviewing him about his art, we're going to talk art history. And he's going to show us some of his favorite artists through, art history, and talk about their significance and that kind of thing. And it's always, I love hearing this coming from artists, because they've got, concrete reasons why they think somebody's significant, and they can tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Mm-hmm. That's this Wednesday?
Yes. And I think that is at 2:00 Eastern.
Yeah.
We're going to try to do more of those, these kind of art history talks, just in general. I think that a lot of tattooers I mean, they come into art through tattooing, right? So you can't be shocked that they don't know much about art history. But I think it would be nice to provide a little bit of resources in that sense, at least a few good talks with established artists. And then when discussing each of these historic figures, showing some of their work.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a few minutes, if you want, we could spotlight everybody's pieces again. Like to get another look and see where we're all at. We've probably been at it for a couple hours now.
Yep, we got 2.5 hours in. That's crazy, actually, to imagine how little I've gotten, but I'm really happy about what I've gotten, so that's all good.
Yeah. Were you hoping to get farther, or I mean,
Yeah, I was like imagining somehow that I could finish this. I have no idea why, because all of the little eyeballs are so detailed, but I'm really liking the effect, so I'll be happy with wherever I get tonight.
Well, so then you ask yourself, is there a more efficient way of doing those, where some of them are less rendered or just suggested, and a few key ones have that, the full treatment?
Mm-hmm.
Does it really become a better piece if every single one of them gets the full treatment?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely like continuously learning an enormous amount about how to approach my next things that I start every time I do one. Because it's just like that idea of like getting really ambitious with what I imagine that you can do. Like I remember when I was, I don't know, 6 or 7, and we were doing something in school where you had to tear up little bits of construction paper and of different colors and then create an image, and people are just making like a sun or a flower, and I made this panther with a rat that was in its mouth, and you could see its spinal cord because it had been ripped apart, and I couldn't finish that in the amount of time that we were given. But for some reason I was like, yeah, this is totally a reasonable project to start with ripped up pieces of paper right now. Like, I haven't changed since I was 6.
Well, what's happening there is you're just seeing what's the most I could possibly do with this.
Yeah.
And then once you envision something that you're really inspired by, it's sometimes hard to scale it back and say, okay, well, that would be the awesome version, but what I'll actually be able to do is this.
Totally.
It's great to at least start by letting your imagination carry it as far as you could imagine it, and then from there figure out what's actually doable.
Totally. Once you understand like your different supplies that you're using, like, oh, okay, that actually doesn't work for this, or ooh, these actually really work well for this. I could do more of that the next time.
Yeah, I think by the time I'm done with this month's round, I'll have a method for working on panel better, because it's still, I mean, I love the look. Maybe I need to explore some different brushes, and that's the thing. I could do a whole month of paintings just to try different brushes.
Mm-hmm.
And each brush, I'd have to give it a few days, 3-4 days, to give it a fair shot, or you could really say, this is not what I'm looking for.
Totally.
But there's so many variables.
Yeah, it's like you'd have to just change the brush. You have to use then the same sort of canvas for all to fully
Yeah, exactly.
get all
You
that.
can't really know the difference until you've tried it in a controlled setting like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, let's go ahead and spotlight each piece here real quick.
All right.
Yeah, this is really awesome. Okay, and so this is like I was talking about James Gurney. You know, he showed this example where it was a moonlit scene, but in it there was this little group of people sitting around a fire, so that you had something to, you know, work opposite the cool moonlit color.
Mhm.
So yeah, that works great.
Yeah, I've got you spotlighted.
Oh. Oh, cool.
Yeah, it looks awesome, bro.
Thank you.
A great action.
Yeah, I think might maybe even spend even more time on this and just make this like a month-long project or something.
Awesome.
You dial it in.
Mm-hmm.
Neat. Melissa, I'm gonna spotlight you here. I'm loving the
Oh,
rain
yeah.
situation. That's
Nice.
awesome.
Just having
They're
fun.
just taking that very meticulous and structured approach to it. But yeah, do you recall the piece that that Rain did a month or so ago? It was a little oval, and there was this sunset gradient. This reminds me of her piece just a little bit, except it's like your piece.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. I love that it looks like super fantastical, but also like, yeah, technically that could happen, which would be pretty spectacular to see.
Thank you. I haven't
Might as well use it for a good cause.
What was that, Melissa?
I have an easier time layering with acrylics than I do oils. Is there any tips for like when I'm switching to oils to layer?
Well,
Time.
the thing that works for me mostly is just working with glazes, and you know, that's just using a lot of your medium and not very much paint, and that gives a lot of control over each layer of paint that you put down. So, you know, if you're trying to create an atmospheric effect, you're trying to create just a little bit of mist or a little bit of lens flare or that kind of thing, or just taking it 10% or 5% darker or lighter or 5% cooler or warmer. If you're working really transparent, it's very easy to do that. And sometimes the way to do it is to just actually brush the medium over the area. Let's say you wanted to change the water and make it just a little bit warmer. If you were to paint medium over the whole water area, just clear medium, and then just take the tiniest amount of paint in your brush, you'll find that, you know, that medium soaked area is very receptive, just grabs the paint right off of your brush, and that it blends super easily and intuitively. I love glazing. So yeah, you know, we'll have to do that sometime this spring. I think we're going to have you know, 2 sessions in 1 week kind of project where we do some glazing. I haven't actually led a painting thing yet. You know, we've had a lot of guest instructors, and I feel like I've kind of, you know, learned enough new stuff. I'm ready to lead another paint workshop at some point. So yeah, we'll do that, and we'll focus on glazing because I think that would be really useful.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Connor, I've got you up now.
Yeah, it's still kind of hard to see with the poor resolution, so I apologize for that.
No worries.
Well, it's not the resolution so much as the lighting. Are you actually working and lighting that dim?
It's not nearly as dim seeming as it is in the video, but in all fairness, yeah, my basement isn't great.
Well, I don't want to sound like your mother, so I won't say the obvious.
Yeah, I think I might have to migrate a lamp or two down here.
If your camera is struggling to resolve it, think about your poor eyes.
Yeah, we're putting them through the ringer. But slowly getting there. It's just, I guess, the size of the piece, makes it tough. This is easily the biggest thing I've ever, played with. So,
How many hours so far, you think?
Somewhere between probably 20 and 25.
Yeah.
I keep
and so
it up for.
And so that is the thing that sometimes causes artists who aren't habitual about painting yet to get burned out. You take on something that ends up, you think, oh, this shouldn't take too long. It's just paint. I can block it in one day. But remember, we're tattooers. Right. So when you've got a canvas that size, that's like 2 back pieces.
Yeah.
This
very
is
easy to get lost.
Yeah. I just keep setting it places where it has to stare at me and then get back into it.
Yeah, that's good. I think it is important to sit back and look at it. And, I'll often take breaks during the session to, I'll make a fresh pot of tea or whatever and just stare at the thing. Because you're right up on it. You're not looking at it honestly.
Also, like turning it on its side or upside down or looking at it in the mirror.
Oh.
Mirror.
It gives your eye a fresh way to look at it, and you'll notice things that you didn't notice it by, you've been staring at it for so long, for so many hours, your eye kind of tends to, it doesn't pick up on things that you might see in a mirror.
Right.
Right. Things stop being obvious.
Mm-hmm.
We stop being intuitive about it because we've just been staring at it. That totally makes sense.
Yep. I'll even get into like an area of the house that has a lower light signal, so I'm not seeing it in good light, and it helps make little things more noticeable.
Right.
I've got you spotlighted now, Leo.
All right, I'll move this because I've got extreme glare on there. Still working on it.
Wow. You got really far in that last little bit, though. That's
Yeah.
I'm really just laying down a base coat that I plan on, noodling over later. So it's in a, this part is in what I call the ugly stage still.
That's beautiful. I love the shape of the tail point, the scorpion tail.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's just a cool shape in general, the way that it sweeps across the top of the composition, starkly against the sky.
That's why I was glad that I chose to not do the wings on it, because the wings were going to cover up so much of the tail and the, this back end that I wanted to show the scorpion body kind of melding into the rest of the creature.
Yeah.
And the wing would have hid all of that. So.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's good that you did your research and, you weren't stuck with that one interpretation of it.
Yeah. And, I almost just went with the wing anyway, because I was really excited to paint a big bird wing. But,
yeah,
it was the right decision, I think.
That's the trouble when there's something that's just got so many cool aspects, like, oh, he's got wings and a baboon face and also like this cool tail, and like you're like, what do I want from this?
Yeah
hard to narrow it down.
So then I'll go on to mine here, and so I got a lot more of the eyes done in there.
Oh yeah.
It's really unclear on here, I'm realizing as well. Got pretty good lighting, but there's a whole bunch of like shiny bits that are happening that you can't see at all. You'll be able to see them when I put up a picture. But pretty happy with how that's going.
Very nice. So guys, I think I am gonna hit it. It's been great hanging with you all.
Yeah,
Putting
man.
everything on
Yeah.
there.
Welcome to keep going as long as you want. Leo, thank you for leading this. It's been really great having you as our host,
Oh,
and
thank you.
I really enjoy your knowledge of the subject, and look forward to seeing you at something else here soon. And everyone else, I will see you tomorrow evening.
Woo.
See you then.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you.
All right. How's everybody else feeling? I'm feeling like it probably is a good time to put everything away. Is everybody else wanting to go on? Because I can also leave this going for a while still and just peek back on you in a little bit.
I think I gotta get some food and head to bed. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably
It
stop
has
in a
been-
moment.
it has been awesome painting with y'all. Leo, thank you for letting us watch you paint.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in, man. Sure.
Hell yeah.
I've been nursing a headache all day long, so I think I'm probably gonna find a stopping point here myself.
That's
Oh,
fair.
yeah.
The time doesn't
Yeah,
help.
get some rest. Concentrating on all that detail is probably pretty intense. Awesome. So before we sign off, I'm just going to remind everybody that tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, the drawing group with Jake Meeks is happening. At noon tomorrow, Mark from Needle Jig is going to be doing Let's Talk Tattoo. And then we're going to be doing Depth Strategies Part 2 Contour for those of you that are in the reinventing group. So exciting. See you all